Hello and welcome to the introduction for my new series on Send Law with lots and lots of insights on all aspects of Send Law over about 15 different episodes, probably adding more onto the end of that as things come up and people make requests, etc. And each episode is going to have a handout as well. So this is just an introduction to what you can expect, and it can all be found in my subscription package on my website, and there'll be a link in the comments to get to that. So, welcome to the Send Law Insight series, and this series is designed for Senkos who are in it every day, juggling real children, real families, real pressures, and those who need to understand the law in a way that's actually useful, not academic, not overwhelming, and not unrealistic as well. And having done the job for many years and still doing the job now because I'm still in school 1 day a week, still Senkoing, still using my knowledge of the law to get what I want out of my LA quite successfully most of the time. So I'm coming to you from that lived experience also. Because the truth is, Send law can feel like a minefield because we're Senkos. We're not just, we're not trained in Send law, are we? We're not going to get our Senko qualifications and getting an add-on of Send law. And although IPSI do training programs, etc., it's a massive amount of work to know what you're doing with the law. So if I can bring the relevant bits to you that you can quote back to the LA and proverbially stick your fingers up at them basically and say I know my rights, then that's going to be helpful for everybody. So you hear things in meetings and Facebook groups and local authorities from other schools, things like you have to provide this, you can't do that, you need a costed provision map. That's not your responsibility. So many things all the time, making you doubt yourself. I think the modern term for this is gaslighting, isn't it? So your LA are probably guilty of gaslighting you slightly in terms of what you might need because their rules versus the actual law can quite often be different. So a lot of the time those statements are kind of half truths, suit them, outdated, or just plain wrong. Either way. So this series is about cutting through that noise and actually working out what is needed and what is not, about giving you enough legal understanding to feel confident, make informed decisions, and to know when to push back and not turn you into a lawyer because, I reckon that's a really dull job and I'd much rather be Senkoing, but just to stop you feel like you're on shaky ground, just so you can be confident in what you're saying to the LA. Because when you understand the legal framework, everything starts to make a little bit more sense. And yep, it's always good fun to write a strongly worded email with the actual law in it, definitely. And more importantly, you stop carrying things that aren't actually your responsibility as well. So let's start then with a really simple foundation. So there are three key pieces of legislation that underpin everything we do in SEND: the Children and Families Act. This is the law that's introduced in the EH&CP plans and set out the legal duties on local authorities and what needs to happen. Second is the SEND Code of Practice published by the DfE. This is statutory guidance, which means schools and local authorities must have regard to it. It's not optional. And the third is the Equality Act 2010. This is where reasonable adjustments come in. It applies to all children with disabilities, whether they have an EHCP or not as well. So one of the biggest mindset shifts that will help you as a Senko is this: you are not legally responsible for everything, and nor is your school. Local authorities carry the legal duty for EHCPs. Your role is to use your best endeavours, and that's a really key phrase, best endeavours, to meet need, to follow the assess, plan, do, review cycle, and to implement provision. But you're not expected, well, you shouldn't be expected to fix a system that's under-resourced, inconsistent, and often contradictory as well. And when that system doesn't work, that's where understanding the law becomes your protection. Because most disputes in SEND come down to one key area: Section F of an EHCP. That's the provision, what is written, how specific is it, and whether it's actually being delivered. If Section F is clear and specific, things tend to work. So when I got my son's EHCP back, I was astounded as to how clear and specific it was. I've never really read one as clear and specific as my son's one. And they're like, "Do you want any changes?" I'm like, "No, I'll take it. I'll take it as it is." So having read a significant amount of EHCPs, clear and specific is not two words that generally go together. If it's vague, then everything starts to fall apart. But again, you can use vagueness to your advantage as well. So throughout this series, you'll see us coming back to that again and again. So before we go any further, I want to be really clear about this, what this series is not as well. This is not about creating more work for you, not expecting you to suddenly produce perfect paperwork or challenge everything at once. Definitely not about making you feel like you've been doing things wrong. This is about giving you clarity so that you can make decisions more quickly and communicate competently and protect your time and energy, because that really matters, doesn't it? So let me walk you through what we're going to cover across this series, and I imagine that more will come after that as well. We're going to start by looking at the legal foundation, so you're really clear on the Children and Families Act, the SEND Code of Practice and the Equality Act, and how they overlap in practice, and I'll attempt to make it as interesting as I can as well. We'll move on to SEND support and what best endeavours actually means in real school context, and not just on paper. We're going to look at thresholds for an education, health and care needs assessment, including why local authorities refuse and what the law actually says about when they should assess. And from there, we're going to cover what to do when there's a refusal to assess, including the appeals process and how to support parents without taking everything on yourself. And there'll be a parent thread running all the way through, because as we all know, parents are sometimes your best friend, other times not so much. So we'll have that running as a theme as well. We'll spend time on how to write an evidence for EHCPs as well, which actually gets agreed, linking need, provision and outcomes clearly. And then we're going to go into section F in detail, because this is the legal anchor for everything in an EHCP, and we'll look at what specific and quantified really means, including key case law and how you can push back to your LA. We'll tackle costed provision maps, the reality that there's no legal requirement for them despite how often they're requested. And although I think transparency is the key, it's really good to know where you stand on the law with that as well. We'll look at naming schools, including mainstream versus specialist provision, and the legal tests that apply there as well. We'll cover consultations with specialist settings, what they mean legally, and how to respond when things don't go as they should, as often happens. And then we'll move on to appealing for specialist provision, building strong cases, and understand what evidence actually carries weight. Looking as well at annual reviews, legal timelines, and what to do when nothing changes despite clear need. We'll cover placement breakdowns and what happens when setting can no longer meet need as well. And we'll look at the difference between reasonable adjustments under the Equality Act and provision under SEND law, because the confusion causes a lot of issues in school. And then finally, we'll focus on managing local authority pushback, using the law strategically and protecting your own capacity as a SENCO, because I'd imagine that your capacity as a SENCO is not that high. So it's difficult, isn't it, balancing everything? Knowing the law is one thing, using it in a way that's sustainable is something else entirely. So as we go through the series, I want you to keep coming back to one question. What do I need to know to do my job well without burning out? And it might be that you just dip in and out to the sections that really interest you or you need to know the most. So you might jump straight to specialist provision if that's what you need, and you might come back to the others, or you just might dip in and out as required. So again, take what's useful, leave what isn't, and just focus on those small shifts that are going to make a big difference, because that's where the real impact sits, because this is about money, isn't it? And good provision for our children. So thank you for being here to look at this introduction. Hopefully see you in the first session within the subscription area. Have a look in the comments for how to find that on my website. See you soon.